eliminate. No return if we continue.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, I just want to talk about Darktide's latest patch and when I think you should actually come back to play again, because as you can see, a couple things got jumbled up on the launch day of this patch, but the hotfix today actually fixed the text code and a couple of other things that they messed up. But before we get started, I do know it's been a while. I was like really sick, so I do want to thank everyone for the get well wishes. I'm sure the Emperor heard you because I'm feeling great, and we really tore it up on the live stream the other night, so thank you to everyone that showed up to that. I had a ton of fun getting to talk to a bunch of you that I see in the comments all the time, so I'm definitely going to start doing it more often, and I announce everything that I'm doing in Discord, so make sure you join that. And I'll be doing tier list updates with the best perks and blessings sometime next week after all the class guides are done. And I have something special coming up that I think will help everyone out quite a bit that I'll preview in tomorrow's live stream. But everything else you need is linked in the description, including the Damnation VODs for the clips used in the background. For now, though, I'm lighting this off with the new plasma gun. It's just insanely fun to use now. They fixed most of its problems and mastercrafted one of my favorite weapons in the entire game. So it's good to see it finally get the love it deserved. And I'll be deep diving in the vet guide later this week. And I showed how to use it on the last live stream, but just some quick notes to get you started. You can shoot through almost any wall with a full charge, and it has insane suppression, letting you completely disable the map and delete everything in front of you, basically. And you don't even have to reload. You just keep venting and burning off toughness until it forces you to reload. Then you could just animation cancel your way through it, and it's just so clean. So we did min-max it to get its best perks and blessings to make sure it never stops delivering that hot plasma justice. And you really want unyielding with maniac damage. It lets you start 1 to 2 shotting almost all these targets down from 3. And your most important blessing is Glory Hunter. This combined with confirmed kill gets you like 45% toughness on every single elite kill, plus like the 25% more over time. And it basically just lets you keep running through the entire map without a care in the world. And the nice thing is the secondary blessing doesn't really make a massive difference. You do get like 20 to 30% damage from Blaze Away on average, but when I started using Volatile, I really felt its impact with the charge speed. But either of these are fine as a secondary blessing, and Gets Hot might have potential if Deadshot ever works with the plasma gun, but it hasn't since launch, so I don't really expect it to. It's just really important to have a top tier modifier roll with this thing if you want to make the most out of it. And I just use the standard grenade build with reload speed, but the bleed grenade can work great too because you don't really need the reload speed that much. It's just really important to take counterfire over anything else now because your toughness damage reduction is just up almost all the time while you're melting all the shooty boys. I used to run Ogren and Monstrosity damage just because it lets you hit a lot of the breakpoints to one-shot most of them, but I just got way too much value out of counterfire with the rework, and it just lets you have tons of fun running the entire map. So if you haven't tried it out, I definitely recommend it. It is just a blast. I've loved the plasma gun's potential since launch, and now it's soared into an amazing position that isn't insanely broken. It's just really good fun, and it was just an overall amazing change that they need to keep focusing on doing. Just like the Rashaad Axe, it feels chunky when it hits something in a good way, and it has a finesse multiplier that I thought would stack up pretty well with Shred, but after using Shred and Head Taker ended up being way better across the board more consistently, and of course you just use Brutal Momentum with it. It's just really good to see a weapon that's been broken forever finally get fixed, so I am really happy about that. And they finally addressed some really annoying issues with the problem Heretics. The Hounds finally feel good to play against now, and even though I dislike the massive radius knockback on their leap, which I think should only be when they land on someone, the new lag compensation feels great, and it just makes them way less frustrating to play against for everyone. And the mutants definitely got a little dumber. Now they're just way easier to dodge, so when you get hit by one, it's 100% on you, but I love that they don't snap turn anymore. It was just not fun to play against, so I'm just really happy that's gone overall now. But I will say the absolute biggest change was to the Pox Bursters. They don't have some weird artificial stagger break bar anymore, and they're a lot more consistent to push now, so these were all really good changes to the annoying enemies that I always see a lot of complaints about. And another really nice thing is they fixed the vote kick to not soft lock a lobby anymore, which was absolutely needed. But someone did mess up the text code descriptions for the feats and blessings on the launch of this patch, and I'm pretty used to it because it's been happening since the game came out. It just doesn't really bother me at this point. But I can see why people are so hard on them about it and why it should never make it through to a live patch. I agree that that kind of thing shouldn't be happening either. It's just that one big issue that has not been addressed yet is the random kicking at the end of the game. This isn't a vote kick, it's just a remove from the strike team randomly. It's happened quite a few times, and as you can see, no vote kick pops up. It just yeeted my boy out of the game. And I've had this happen to me. I've had it happen to other people. It just removes you from the strike team. I don't know what causes it, but it might just be like a high ping spike or something. But it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. I don't think it's a massive problem yet, but obviously you don't want something like that to get worse because it's just insanely frustrating. So other than that, most of the crashing issues are solved now outside of closing the game, which still counts as a crash when you Alt F4 for some reason, but I think that's fine. There's a few games that I play that do that. But this really brings us to the question that I got asked a ton in the last video, and that's if Darktide was worth coming back to. So we talked about a lot of the stuff that's been added and a lot of stuff that's happened to the game. So I will talk about a couple things that I think they need to do for the next update, because I think it has taken massive steps in the right direction and is on course to be what we all wanted it to be very slowly. Because between the crashing fixes and actually finishing the game with the Tools of War update, we got about the amount of weapons we were promised at launch. I still think patch 7 was bad for the health of the game because it just promoted more RNG in a bad way, and I do talk about it in the last video. I think any future buffs and nerfs for any weapon that gets changed in any way should have its perks and blessing locks removed, so you don't have to make a new one because of how frustrating it is to roll a weapon with good modifiers. I think this is at least fair with the constant changing state at the moment, and to avoid any rare blessings feeling terrible to get, you should be able to buy them from Mr. Milkers himself. Most people at this stage are just logging into shop check, and if they don't get the blessing they want, they log out after they finish their weekly quests. So an arbitrary number. Obviously, I don't think this should be the final number, but just as an example, like 10,000 weekly coins or something lets you buy one tier 4 blessing of your choice. For an example, Bloodthirsty on a Force Sword. I've rolled at least 50 or 60 of them. I still haven't seen Bloodthirsty rolling into Legendary, so I think this would just be an easy solve, and it promotes grinding and playtime inflation just in the actual missions instead of the Morningstar. And this is something I brought up before, but unlocking the perks and blessings is only a temporary fix. It doesn't really solve the issue that it's just a bad overall crafting system when you compare it to what they originally had planned. So this post is linked in the description again if you want to give it a read, but I do think some RNG is fine. It just becomes a problem when there's an overwhelming gate just to get some of the rare things that most people will never see with the way it is now. So I don't think it's okay to gatekeep like casual players out of the rare blessings just because they don't play as much as somebody who plays all the time. I think that time gating someone with limited hours is probably the best way to go about it, because they can only play a couple hours a week anyway. So I think finishing weekly quests to be able to unlock these things as well is pretty much the best way to go about it. And again, I play a lot, and I know a lot of people that play a lot more than I do, and they still need a bunch of rare blessings after rolling hundreds of items. And that's also why rolling perks has got to go too. Again, just a random arbitrary number. Let me buy a tier 4 perk for 400 plastio and 400 diamantine. I don't mind going to do one mission to pick the exact thing that I want. I don't care if the other thing's locked, but the current spam rolling thing is just so tedious and mindlessly boring that almost everyone uses a mod to roll T4 perks now. And I know from feedback since launch, a lot of people, including myself, love the core gameplay. And more than anything, it brought a lot of 40k weapons to life in a way I never thought I would really see in a game. So they definitely have come a long way since then. The game has gotten way better, and things are definitely going in the right direction at least. But if Darktide ever wants to recover and start growing, it not only needs to show its true potential with this next update, it needs to add a lot of meaningful playable content. I think the map pool needs to be bloated with at least 8 maps with the way that they are, with the intersecting parts of each other. So it's like 4 maps that are intersecting or whatever it is, because people are just starting to get bored of what we've had since launch. And I also don't see why these maps can't be procedurally generated with the way they all have very samey objectives. And from an early dev interview, it kind of sounded like that's something they originally wanted. Maybe not completely procedurally generated, but kind of think how there's 3 paths that explode at the end of Habdrekio. It really seems like it would be easier to make set pieces that get added into the pool than making an entire new map, and it would just max the replayability of the game out completely. So I think in the next update, at least the RNG changes I talked about need to be addressed in some way. Maybe not the way that I wanted them specifically, but something does need to be done about the things that I talked about, and some substance needs to be added to the game. So is this the update that you come back to try Darktide out? Maybe. I think the big content update that was pushed from the end of April to the first week of May is when you should come back. And I think no matter what, in 2 weeks when that update comes out, if you've ever owned Darktide, you should reinstall it to play it, because it is the make it or break it patch for Darktide. So you either get to watch it go up in flames or become the gem we all wanted it to see. And I'll definitely be streaming that for whatever way it goes, because it will really show the future and will actually set the pace for what we can expect it to become. And Darktide's longevity, unfortunately, does rely on this update, not just being good, but perfecting the game and adding stuff to it. Because most people are starting to give up altogether or have really just forgotten about it. Like, nobody's really searching for Darktide anymore because they took too long to add any kind of substance and move away from too much RNG. And I've said it before, but if we keep walking, we'll never get to our destination, because there needs to be a clear goal in sight, and they've taken too long. And I know some people are going to cap me on that, and they're like, no, it's going to be just fine. Look, nobody wants a 2,000 to 3,000 player game with barely any support on it. Everybody wants a large game that's getting constant updates, it's getting fueled full of money, and the updates come faster. The smaller the game is, the slower the updates are. That's as simple as it gets. And Diablo 4 comes out a month after that patch, and by looking at the age group of my average Endurer, I know about 80% of you are going to be playing it too. Even if you weren't going to, your friends will convince you to try it out, and D4 has some of the most hype a game has ever had with just a CBT. I think more shocking than anything is a finished game is actually getting released, and after playing the Friends and Family Alpha, I can promise you it's something you really don't want to miss out on. So I do genuinely hope Darktide becomes the game we all dreamed it would be in about 2 weeks, so it doesn't just get forgotten about. I always love hearing what you have to say about the future of Darktide, but whatever way it goes, I'm sure it'll take our breath away. And that's going to be all for now, so I hope you all have a great night.